Hello, my friends. It's nice to see you again today. If we haven't met before, my name is Jen Daly, and I'm a therapist and a family coach, and I help kids and their grown-ups deal with all sorts of things like litty bitty bitty problems and really big problems. And I wanted to talk to you today, and today's video is mostly going to be for parents of teenagers or people who work with teenagers or care about teenagers, okay? So one of the really big problems of our time right now is that we have a person in the office of the presidency who's dangerous, who is fanning the flames of hate and division and not responding to well to the crises of our times. And if before you get excited and say, Jen, you're a therapist, you shouldn't be diving into politics like this, being a therapist is absolutely political, right? Because if you're a therapist, you can see all these huge systems that are working that either hurt or help my clients, right? So politics really, really matters. The laws we enact, the school-based policies we follow, all of that greatly affects the health and well-being of the people I work with. So I'm very political. In case this is your first video, so you know, this really matters to me a whole lot. Politics comes into the therapy office, and that's a part of it. So the kids are noticing, the teenagers are noticing just how unfair and messed up all of these systems are. They're learning about things like Juneteenth and saying, why aren't we learning about this stuff in school? Why do I know, why am I learning lies in school? I still got to go back to school in the fall. I just got out of online school. We didn't learn anything that mattered during that. Why weren't we learning about Juneteenth and the Tulsa Race Massacre and Black Wall Street and how that got burned down and all these different important historical events? But the kids know how powerful the tools in our pockets are, right? These teenagers who are always on their phone and you think they're just, wasting time. But what are they really doing, right? They're learning, they're talking to each other, they're figuring out the path forward and how to make the world a better place. Did you hear what our teenagers did this weekend? See, Donald Trump had this big rally planned, right? And he said, we have over 1 million tickets, registered for. This is amazing. Everybody's behind us. We're the silent majority. All of that narrative created around these 1 million ticket registrations. But what the kids had done, the teenagers did through TikTok and other social media means, is that the K-pop community, and if you're not familiar with K-pop, it's the name of the people who like Korean pop music, which is this really kind of fun, poppy, upbeat kind of thing. It makes you feel good to listen to this kind of music. And those kids got together through their online channels and with the encouragement, I believe, of some of the biggest, fan influencers out there. And they just registered for tickets, American kids sitting in their living room, maybe sitting next to dear old mom and dad who are watching Fox News or something like that, sitting there using the tools of power at their disposal. They registered for millions, close to 1 million tickets of people having no intention of showing up, just to distort the data collection, to take control, to change the narrative of what's going on with something that they don't agree with. Now, if your kids are on social media, my guess is they knew about this. They knew about it and kept it quiet. And why do they do that? Why do kids not tell their parents about stuff? So it's a pretty amazing thing that they did. And kids, man, they are really powerful and we ought to listen to them, which is why I work with kids in the first place and teenagers in the first place. So one of the things that comes up with the teenagers that I work with is that they actually are really trying to have conversations with their parents. And oftentimes they want to have a better relationship with their parents. But when they try to have the conversation, when they try to bring up something that they need some guidance and mentoring and support on with things that matter to them, often they're met with invalidation. And invalidation is probably the most common and chronic affliction facing most teenagers and their parents, because parents don't think they're being invalidating and they're being invalidating. And teenagers think that they're bringing up conversations in a really helpful way, and maybe it's not so helpful for the parents. But teenagers don't watch Facebook videos for the most part. For the most part, teens aren't on Facebook. They're on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and those sorts of things, or on Discord, and I'm not on any of those things. So I'm talking to the parents about validation today. Okay, so say your kid is dealing with something. If they're gonna, what do? So teenagers don't just come right out with the thing that they're dealing with. They're not going to be like, hey, mom and dad, here's this issue I'm really concerned about. Will you help guide and mentor me about that? They're not going to do that. That's not how teenagers operate. It's not how they're supposed to operate. It's not how they're designed to operate. So us grown-ups, we got to start listening really, really carefully for what our teenagers are saying. Okay? One, teenagers almost always dip their toe in the water first about something before they go further. Okay? So they might bring up the teeny little bit of the tip of an iceberg of something and see how you respond. Do you start having emotions right away and showing them on your face? Then they're out of that conversation. Do you start peppering with them with questions? Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Isn't that annoying? They're out of there with that conversation. Okay? So they're going to dip their toes in the water, and based on your initial response from that little tip of the iceberg of that conversation is whether or not they're going to remain open to you after taking the risk of opening up to you. Okay? So I'm going to teach you a really helpful skill with your teenager, right? If they start bringing something up and you can tell that they're kind of looking for something but you don't know what, I want you to ask. Ask your kids what they're looking for in a conversation, right? And this is something that you can do with your partners too, grown-ups, and everybody can do this with everybody, but parents, please, for the love of all things good, start doing this with your teenagers, okay? Just say something to the effect of, so in this conversation, do you want me to just listen and get it? Do you want me to provide feedback? Do you want help looking at other perspectives or talking through? And whatever you want is fine, but I just want to know how to be in this conversation. I want to know how to listen to you right now. Your kids will tell you. If they trust you, they will tell you an honest response to that. So I'm going to say it again, right? Do you want me to just listen and get it? If that's the case, you shut up and listen, right? You just be quiet and you keep, neutral to slightly encouraging kind of facial features. You don't look horrified because that'll shut them down if they just want you to get it. And at the end, you can just say wow, I got it. Thank you for sharing that with me. And then be quiet. Okay. If they're looking for guidance, right? They'll tell you, and then you can offer your guidance. You can stop and say, well, given all of that, I think the best way to be supportive of your friend is blank, whatever that is. If they're looking for problem solving, just say, do you want me to play, devil's advocate here and really kind of push the different angles? Yes, okay, then do that. But once you can do that once you have permission from your kids to listen that way. A lot of times kids are like, well, my parents want us to talk more, so here I am trying to talk more, and here they are shutting down the conversation again. Well, what if we stopped doing that? What if we actually tried, asking them for what they needed in a conversation and then providing that without judgment? Without fighting back or getting defensive, not being like, well, you don't want to hear about my feelings about it. Stop that. Stop that nonsense. It's not helping your kids because they are revolutionaries, right? They just trolled the president epically because they know how to take action on what matters to them. And if they're not talking to you about what really matters to them, there's a reason behind it. And you as parents have some power to start shifting that conversation. So watch for your kids dipping their toes in the water. Watch for your kids dropping a tiny little seed to see how you'll respond. Okay? Because they're doing that. They do it all the time. Every teenager everywhere does that. Think about yourself when you were a teenager. You did that with your parents too. Unless you learned earlier that it wasn't even worth it. And then you stopped doing that in middle school. Okay, that's it for today, folks. Parents, I really, really want you to try this. Try it and let me know how it goes. Try it at the dinner table, sometime this week when you notice your kids are bringing up something a little bit. Or ask them if they knew about the TikTok and K-pop thing about trolling Trump, right? You can bring up those conversations too, and you have to respect if they don't want to talk about stuff because they just might be in a, I don't want to mood in that moment. And you got to respect that too. Okay, if you want to learn more about me, you may visit my website, jendaly.licsw.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.